Mrs. Hobart coming to you live from my house. I hope all of you had a good and restful weekend and are ready to start another week. I just know that this is different than what any of us expected. And so I know as you look at the next week of doing school all by yourself at home without your classmates, sometimes that can be a little difficult. And sometimes it can be really fun too, because it's an opportunity to really spend good time with your parents and with your siblings. My encouragement for you today, students, is to find ways to serve your, meaning your mom or your dad or whoever's teaching you. Maybe you can offer to do something to help serve the family, or maybe you can help with a younger sibling who may need some help with some of their schoolwork. Anyway, I'm grateful for all of you. I miss you tremendously. I would love to teach you in person, to see your faces. Even when I ask questions here, it's strange to not, but it is what it is. And so praying for you all this week, praying you'll have a great week, learning and growing and loving God through what you're learning. And I would normally say this, so today is a beautiful day for learning. All right, let's go ahead and pray and then we'll start. God, thank you so much for this class. Thank you for these students that have parents that love and follow you. And thank you, God, that their hearts are soft toward one another. I pray that we would continue to grow in our love for you by what we learn. I pray, God, that you would help us understand math today, as well as help us with spelling. And as we start the secret garden, that's super fun, Lord. And I pray that you would show us just the wonder of creation and the beauty of your creation around us. Thank you for your love and your kindness to us. In Jesus' name, amen. In that prayer, I was remembering a couple of things that you have a first language lesson quiz today, and so it will be very similar to the review sheet you did last week. You also have your spelling quiz, and then the exciting thing is we're starting a new book, and so it's called The Secret Garden, and I've been listening to it. I've read it before, and I do have a copy at home, but I've been enjoying listening to it on Audible. And some of you may have, or maybe you're going to read it with mom or dad, but it's a really fun book. And then history, you're going to read a little bit about Constantinople and some things happening in Russia. So it will be pretty exciting. And you're also starting a new chapter regarding time in Latin, which is kind of interesting because in math, we're dealing with fractions right now, but then we'll be transitioning to time, I'm guessing in another 3-4 weeks or so after this unit. Remember to keep reviewing those conversions. I even put something online, a review sheet. It's not due. It's not anything that you absolutely have to do, but if mom or dad are looking for ways for you to practice conversions, I did post a sheet with an answer key so you can keep working on those. And I'll check for that understanding probably mid to late April. Keep working on your timesheets too, because we want to continue to excel in our math facts. And why do we do that? We do it because we want to lay a good foundation we can run with ease and not trip. That's the motivation. That's something I always say to the students. So, all right, here we go. We are learning about fractions. Elise wanted to write that on the board for you. She likes getting to write. So, before we do fractions, I want to do one review problem because Monday's lesson was a little bit trickier. So, I have a practice review problem I'm going to write on the board. Let's take 3 quarts and 1 pint plus 7 quarts and 1 pint. Before I start talking, before I start solving, I want to think how many pints are in a quart. That's what's important to know before I even start moving forward. How many pints are in a quart? So let's go ahead and add our quarts together. And I end up with 10 quarts. Let's add our pints together. 1 pint and 1 pint. And I have 2 pints. Do you remember what I just asked before? How many pints are in a quart? 2. I have 2 pints right here. So that's the same as saying 1 quart. I need to add another quart to this. So now I have 11 quarts and 0 pints. Okay? That's just a review. You can go through on your own a practice one. Just keep doing this. It's not meant to be overwhelming. It's just to keep it fresh in our minds and to make sure we are understanding it, because sometimes it just takes a little bit of time for things to truly sink in. Okay, on to fractions, my friends. All right. Now, if you did Singapore in 2nd grade, and I'm guessing those who didn't, but did some other type of math curriculum in 2nd grade, you have been introduced to fractions in one way or another. So, in 2nd grade, if you did Singapore math, you learned to write fractions and to add fractions with the same denominator, okay? You may not remember all those terms. That's okay. But you also learned how to make one whole. So you've done this before. This is going to serve as a review. Or maybe if it didn't quite make sense in 2nd grade, this is our opportunity to come back and learn it and feel good about it. So we're going to review fractions in this lesson, and then we're going to keep building on fractions and keep learning more and more so that we can start to play a little bit and understand fractions in a deeper way. Okay, let's start. I folded this pink piece of paper into 4 equal 2 parts, 3 parts, and 4 parts, okay? Fractions are equal parts, okay? So, if I have this divided into 4 parts, if I color in, let's pretend this looks much neater than it does, but if I color in one of those parts, I will have colored in 1 out of the 4 parts, or 1/4. If I color in 2 parts of these 4 parts, I have colored in 2/4. I color in 3, I have now colored in 3/4. If I color in the 4th piece, I have now, colored in 4/4, or 1/2. Okay, we're going to keep talking about that. Keep watching. So, here is what a fraction looks like. I'm going to introduce some terms. In the lesson plans, they don't have me introducing these terms until next time, but I want to give you something in your head. This is called the numerator. This is called the denominator. Okay, and we'll go through that again, so no worries if you don't remember that. But when we see something like this, we say the term 3/4. Okay? Let me show you what 3/4 looks like. Hungry thinking about this. But if I wanted to shade in 3/4, I would shade in 1, 2, 3 pieces of those 4 equal pieces, giving me 3/4. I added 1/4. There's 1/4. And there's 1/4 to give me 3/4. All right, let's take a look at our textbooks. All of you, I want to make sure you have your textbooks and you're ready to discuss. I want you to turn to page 64, and it's called Fractions. I'll give you a minute to catch up. Now, on page 64, we have a whole pie. Do you see that? And then there's this pink arrow, and it's showing you that they've divided the pie for you. They divided the pie into 5 slices. This first plate has 2 slices of the 5 slices of pie. And they wrote it for you. It says 2/5. So they had 3 pieces left, and they put those 3 equal pieces out of those 5 pieces on this plate, giving you 3. So knowing that they had this whole piece of pie, they divided it into 5 parts, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 represented. How many fifths are there in a whole? Let's count. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. There are 5 fifths in a whole. Okay, let's look at another type or another example. They have a huge watermelon here. And they decided not to break this up into fifths, but they wanted to break the watermelon up into eighths. So they have 2 different plates here, and they have 3 pieces, equal pieces of watermelon here, and 5 equal pieces of watermelon on this plate, giving you 3/8 and 5/8. So how many eighths are there in a whole? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/8 make a whole, because you have 8 parts and you have all of the parts represented. 8/8 is a whole. Okay? Let's transition to page 65. For number 1, excuse me, we have something that looks very familiar, don't we? They're bar graphs. We've been seeing a lot of these. All right. We have this bar divided up into 5 equal parts. Okay? It says 2/5 of the bar is shaded. So we want to think through these terms when we say 2/5. So they're going to make you think through what you're really saying. So they say 2/5 is blank out of the blank equal parts. So 2/5 is how many? 1, 2. 2 out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts. So they show that by doing this fraction, 2/5. 2 out of the 5 parts are shaded. So in the blank you would write the words 2/5. It may seem a little redundant, that means repetitive, to do it again and again like this. But the reason they're doing this is to make sure you understand what 2/5 really mean. Do you remember when we were talking about division? And I said, you guys have actually been dividing a long time. You just don't know it. You've been doing fractions for a long time. You may not have just known it. Because when you have to share a pizza with friends or with siblings, you already know that you want those pieces of pizza in equal parts. And you already are doing the math thinking, how do I make sure that I get the same amount of pizza as my friends or my siblings? Right? You've actually been working with fractions. All right, let's go to B. So we looked at, they were asking like how much of this is shaded, and now they're asking how much is unshaded. So they said, how many? 1, 2, 3. 3/5 of the bar is 3/5 is going to be blank out of the blank equal parts. What do you think that is? In front of that word fifths. Now remember what we were talking about when we were talking about the pie and the watermelon? How many fifths would make a whole? That's right, 5/5. If all of these were colored, then we could say the whole thing is shaded or colored. And that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5/5. Each part is full. Remember where I had the circle like this and I had 4 equal parts? Let's pretend that that's really equal. 1, 2, 3, 4. So one whole would be, I would have 4 out of the 4 parts shaded. Let's look at number 2. Okay, here's a bar graph again. But instead of being divided up into 5 parts, it's divided up into 8 parts. So they're telling you right now that 3 out of the 8 parts of the bar is shaded. So now they're asking you, what fraction of the bar is not shaded? If you know 3/8 is shaded, how much is not shaded? Now, some of you may already be doing it in your head and can give me the answer. For some of you, you may want to go back and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5/8 is not shaded. Those of you who solved it in your head may have done this. You have said in your head, I know that 8/8 is a whole. If 3/8 is shaded, then I know only 3 out of the 8 parts have been taken. What is 8 minus 3? Ding, 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 ding. It's 5, okay? That's what they did for B. They said 1 whole equals how many eighths? If all of this was shaded, that would be a whole, the whole thing is shaded. 8/8 would be shaded, 8 out of the 8 parts. And this is what we're doing. We're just walking you through it. 3/8 and blank make 1 whole. If I shaded in the rest of these, it would be 5/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5/8. 3/8 and 5/8 would make 1 whole. Page 66. Okay, so turn your page, and your page should look like this. Excuse me. All right. So we're going to answer the question, what fraction of each shape is shaded? And whether it looks like it or not, all of these are divided up into equal with letter A. How many total parts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we have 5 term. I'm going to put 5 on the bottom, which is the denominator. I'll label what I'm doing here. And they're asking me what fraction of the shape is shaded. How many parts of those 5 equal parts are shaded? 1. So the answer is going to be 1/5. Let's move on to B. Yes, these are equal parts. They don't look equal because of the way that they're all flipped, but they are. How many parts do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So out of 6 parts, I'm going to put that on the bottom, or my denominator. How many pieces are shaded? 1. So B, it is 1/6 of the shape that is shaded. Let's move on to C. Let me touch that up. Okay, let's look at C. How many parts are... Sorry, my computer. Okay, let's count how many pieces of, let's say this is a pizza or something. Let's go ahead and count together. Ready? I'll use a finer tip. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 equal parts. So my number on the bottom, or my denominator, is going to be 12. And how many pieces out of my 12 are shaded? 1. Okay, now let's move on to D. This one's an easier one to count. How many pieces are equal in here? How many equal pieces? How many of those are shaded? We're right here. 2. So I need to put 2 in the numerator or the top, showing me that 2 out of the 3 parts, or 2/3, are shaded. Let's move on to E. All right. How many equal parts are in E? Sorry, my book is kind of wobbly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 equal parts making a whole. And how many of those are shaded? 1, 2. So that gives me 2/5 of that shape are shaded. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have a total of 6 pieces. So 6 is going to be my denominator. That's showing me how many pieces total. And then I'm going to write how many pieces are shaded in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For a total of 5/6 of the shape is shaded in. We're almost done. Let's go ahead and talk about G, and then we'll move to H. These are all equal pieces. Let's count how many pieces are there in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 total pieces. It's going to go on the bottom or the denominator. And how many are shaded? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of the 8 pieces are shaded. Just for another check for understanding, how many of the pieces are not shaded? 1/8. And a whole would be 8/8, right? All right, let's go talk through H real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know it's the same amount down here, but 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10 total pieces. How many are shaded? Here are my 10 total pieces. They're going to go on the bottom or the denominator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7/10 of the shape is shaded in. Now you'll know that we have some more to discuss, and we will get to these pages later. On Wednesday, I'm going to talk a little bit more about fractions, and we'll come back and we'll revisit this a little bit more. As a reminder, students, for math, on Tuesdays and Thursday this week, we're going to be working on reviews in our workbook. Tuesday is going to be word problems, so your parents have the answer keys for those. But again, as a reminder for word problems, if they're single steps, I want to see all 3 steps. Model drawing, solving the problem, and writing the sentence. If they are 2-step story problems, do not be afraid. Think about, what do I know? And you start drawing, okay? And for those 2-step problems, just calm down and think, what do I know? I need to be a detective, okay? And you need 2 models and 2 math problems and the question that the problem asks, okay? It's going to be a good review for you on Tuesday because those are problems that take another way of thinking, okay? And then Thursday is going to be also another review. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye for now. You have a couple workbook exercises to do today that will help reinforce what we learned about today. If you have any questions, ask Mom. So have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for listening. Bye, class.